Sit back and throw one back with your pinky in the air and a middle finger to the world, and join me, the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, as we look back on this day in pro wrestling history. But before we do, put that drink down, like, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get our wrestling history on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is November 25th, and we're going to start off as we always do on a positive note. That's right. These are your pro wrestling birthdays. 1942, one tough SOB, Blackjack Mulligan. 1946, multiple-time World Tag Team Champion, Johnny Valiant. 1980, the voice of Impact Wrestling, Josh Matthews. And last but not least, 1990, 205 Live's own, Raul Mendez. Of course, on the flip side of that coin, your pro wrestling deaths for November 25th. 2010, Japanese legend, Kentaro Hashimoto. Alright, enough of the sad stuff. It's time to get to the meat and potatoes. That's right, these are your pro wrestling history highlights for November 25th. A short trip in the Wayback Machine today as we start in 1982. Mid-South Wrestling ran a Thanksgiving Day event at the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, drawing over 15,000 fans. The main event saw Stagger Lee, aka the Junkyard Dog under a mask, defeating Ted DiBiase to win the Mid-South Wrestling North American title, ending DiBiase's third reign. JYD was wrestling underneath a mask due to losing a loser leaves for 90 days match. When the 90 days was up, Stagger Lee vacated the title and Junkyard Dog returned. 3 years later in 1985, the other WWF World Championship screwjob took place in Madison Square Garden in New York City, more than a decade before Bret Hart stepped into that ring in Montreal. Wendy Richter was booked to wrestle the Spider Lady, a masked wrestler usually played by Penny Mitchell and managed by the Fabulous Moolah, in a successful title defense. However, when it came to match time, Richter was surprised to find out that Moolah was actually underneath the mask that night. Richter was quoted in some interviews as saying she didn't know it was Moolah when the match began, but given the number of times the two had wrestled, she realized that it was Moolah when they started wrestling. During the match, referee Dick Kroll made several suspect counts, and at the end counted 3 on a small package by the Spider Lady, despite Richter kicking out. Richter pulled the mask off Moolah at that point. Moolah pretty much let her do it, and Moolah then paraded around the ring as the ring announcer Howard Finkel announced her as the new champion. Richter then threw some slaps and kicks which Moolah no-sold, infuriating Richter even more, who then grabbed the belt and tried to hit Moolah with it, before throwing it down and storming off from the ring. Richter never wrestled another WWF match, instead working with the AWA and WWC. She would not return to the company until 2009, when she was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Grabbing my flannel and going to the decade of grunge, 1991. Kamala defeats Jerry Lawler for the USWA Unified Heavyweight title in Memphis, Tennessee, ending Lawler's 10th reign as champion. On the same card, Robert Fuller and Mike Mitchell defeat Doug Masters and Bart Sawyer for the USWA Tag Team titles. And last but not least, Smoky Mountain Wrestling Thanksgiving Thunder 95 takes place, with a main event of Tommy Rich defeating Brad Armstrong for the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Heavyweight title. Those were your super short but sweet pro wrestling history highlights for November 25th. I'm the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, and we'll see you tomorrow.